Rolling right along with SEC week here on YouTube. Wednesday today, so we're about halfway through SEC week, taking 4 or 5 days over the last month or so and dedicating 4 or 5 days to each of the Power 5 conferences. We've done the ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, the Pac-12, doing the SEC now about halfway through, which puts us 1 day closer to the 24-hour live stream coming up this Saturday. Going to start the live stream sometime Saturday morning and run it through sometime Sunday morning. Going to try to go for 24 hours. We'll see if I can make it. I don't know. I'm an old man. I haven't stayed up for 24 hours in a long time, but we're going to give it our best shot. And probably more importantly, 1 day closer to the Uncle Lou official prediction videos. That's right after the live stream ends on Saturday. Sunday, we're going to start the official Uncle Lou predictions. You guys have been looking forward to those. Did them last year. Y'all seem to like them, so and do a whole bunch of them this year. We're going to run those prediction videos from this Sunday all the way up to the start of the college football season, which this year, of course, comes on August 24th, week 0. Big LSU or Miami versus Florida game to kick things off August 24th. But anyway, up today, SEC week video number 3. We've covered the coaches. Some mad people there. And we talked about some storylines from the SEC in the video before that. So video number 3 today, I'm going to talk about some of my best / favorite / most interesting offensive players in the SEC for 2019. Hey, good morning, it's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right, it's me, Uncle Lou, and I'm live for you on LouTube today. So thanks for watching, I really appreciate it also, and in addition to that as well, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. I post college football videos almost every single day of the year, and sometimes they're even watchable. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps me a lot, doesn't take any time, doesn't cost you anything, but it's a huge help to me. I'm trying to hit 20,000 subscribers by the start of the college football season, and I can't do it without you guys' help. So if you enjoy this video or one of the previous videos from conference weeks that we've done here on LouTube, pick one of those videos and share it somewhere. It would really mean a lot. All right, here we go. Let's get on with today's video. We're going to talk about some of my favorite, best, most interesting, whatever you want to call it, players on the offensive side of the ball in the SEC for 2019. You know, sometimes I hit record on this camera, and my intention is to make people mad. You know, we do a lot of trash talking on this channel. To me, trash talk is just a part of college football. Hope that doesn't turn you off from the channel. It's not personal. I just I can't separate the two. To me, trash talk is part of college football. Videos like I'm doing this week and these other weeks with the conference weeks, it's not my intention to make people mad. But of course, college football fans are very passionate. And anytime someone disagrees with anything I say, tend to get mad about it. That was definitely the case with the ranking the coaches video yesterday. I'm sure that'll be the case with this video here. But again, my intention here isn't to make anyone mad. I'm not saying these are the 10 best players. I'm just saying, to me, these are the most interesting or best or whatever to keep an eye on in 2019. Again, same way we did the other conferences, I'm not going to talk about offensive linemen. I realize that offensive linemen are a lot of times some of the best players on a team. I get it. I think Georgia's best player is left tackle Andrew Thomas. So believe me, I understand. But for the purposes of these player videos that we're doing for all the different conferences, I've been focusing just on skill position players, trying to pick out a couple of quarterbacks, a couple of running backs, a couple of wide receivers, a couple of tight ends from each conference that interests me or I think could have a good year, whatever. Anyway, no particular order. We're going to go start with quarterbacks and work our way through the rest of the positions. You have to start with Tua. You know, ridiculous numbers that this guy put up last year, and really only played about 70 or 75% of most games, right? Completed 69% of his passes. He was a sophomore, but you got to remember that was his first year starting. Jalen Hurts, of course, started the year before, but dude completes 69% of his passes, almost 4,000 yards, 3,966 yards, 43 touchdowns to only 6 interceptions. A QBR of 199.4. Close to winning the Heisman last year. Had Kyler Murray not had really an all-time great season out at Oklahoma, Tua probably would have won the Heisman last year. He'd be a front runner for it again this year. Him and Trevor Lawrence, the two sort of favorites there. I'm guilty of this too. There's sort of a knock on Tua a little bit that maybe he's a little fragile, soft, whatever you want to call it. He did spend listen, even if you're an Alabama fan, and you guys know I talk about this all the time, I hate injuries in college football. At the end of the day, these are college kids. They're not getting paid. I don't ever like to see anybody get hurt. Even Alabama fans, though, if you're going to be honest with yourself, you've got to be a little bit concerned with just the amount of time Tua spends in the injury tent. I know we joke about the injury tent a little bit here, but every game I watched Alabama play, and I watched a lot of probably 10 of their games, and I watched all of probably half their games, he was in the injury tent in every game. Now, he didn't miss any games completely, but he was in that injury. I've never seen anything like it. Most of the time, I guess it ended up being not anything too serious. The only games really that I think injury had anything to do with him coming out was the Georgia game and maybe the Clemson game. But even then, no, not the Clemson game, but the Georgia game maybe. But even in that game, Georgia just was dominating him. But it's got to be a concern if you're an Alabama fan, I think. And this year, you don't have an experienced backup like you did last year with Jalen Hurts to fall back on. You've got like Bear Bryant's great grandson or something, and then Tua's younger brother. He's injured now, right? Supposed to go to this Manning Passing Academy last week. He can't go because of a hamstring injury. I was listening to Paul Feinbaum on the radio yesterday, and he's in love with Alabama. He said, I don't know if I haven't heard this anywhere else. He said Tua showed up to summer workouts a couple of weeks ago, 25 pounds overweight. Tua's one of the best quarterbacks in America. He throws a great deep ball. He can move around some. He's got to stay healthy, though. Again, this is not a trash talk video. We have plenty of time for that during the season. If I'm an Alabama fan, I am scared to death about Tua and the amount of time he spends in the injury tent. But he's got to be on a list of any 10 players you do when you're talking about offense in the SEC. These numbers last year were just stupid. And then, again, consider the fact he only played about 75% of every single game because either Alabama was up by 40 points, so they took him out and put Hurts in. That happened a lot during the regular season. In the case of the SEC championship game, he was getting absolutely humiliated, and then he rolled an ankle or something and got taken out in the third quarter. And then in the Clemson game, they got blown out, and again, Hurts got put in. So these numbers, he's never started and finished a game. So these numbers are 70, 75% of the game, right? Because, they just took him out. Hard to believe a guy never started and finished the same game. Anyway, you got to have two on the list. All right, I got Jake Fromm on the list. Listen, I'm hard on Jake Fromm, and it irritates some Georgia fans sometimes. I think Jake Fromm is a great quarterback. I do. There are things I want to see him do better. Yeah, of course. But I could say that about any player on any team, but especially on Georgia. When I watch Georgia, I just, every little thing just bothers me with Georgia, and that bothers some Georgia fans, and I understand that, but Fromm, not mobile at all, breaks down under pressure in my opinion, takes too many sacks, a little bit too conservative for my take. Now, Chaney has gotten a lot of the blame for that, offensive coordinator the last couple of years. He's gone now, Coley offensive coordinator now, so we'll see maybe if that opens Fromm up a little bit this year, but you look at his numbers, nothing eye-popping, 67%, that's great. 2,761 yards, that's pedestrian. 30 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, that's elite touchdown to interception ratio. QBR of 171.3, which in a normal year would be amazing. But because we have Tua in the conference and he put up a 200 QBR, you're sitting 30 points, 30 points behind him. But the point is, Fromm is a great quarterback, by far the best quarterback Georgia has. I think he's by far the second best quarterback in the SEC. Felipe Franks had an okay year last year. I actually like Jarrett Guantanamo Bay up at Tennessee. Now, I don't think he's got nearly the pieces around him that a Tua or a Fromm have, or even a Franks. I'm also a Kellen Mond fan. There's not a more experienced quarterback in the SEC than Kellen Mond. Texas A&M and Kellen Mond are going to be dangerous this year. But I think if you're going to start a list of offensive players in the SEC, Tua and Fromm is a good place to start, right? And I have them on this list. All right, I got a third quarterback on here. I'm not saying this guy is going to be one of the best 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the SEC this year. Again, this isn't just best players, but this is one of the most interesting players in the SEC to me this year, 2019. A guy that not only myself, but I think a lot of people are going to be curious to see what this guy does and what he looks like. Kelly Bryant, quarterback, Missouri. Of course, everyone knows the story by now. Starter at Clemson, takes him to a national title game, or takes him to the playoff, in 2017 before getting beat in the first round by Alabama. And really, if you watched that game, Kelly Bryant did struggle in that game. Clemson offensively couldn't get anything going. Trevor Lawrence comes in as one of the most highly recruited freshman quarterbacks of all time. 2018 season starts. They give Kelly Bryant the start, but they're rotating Kelly Bryant in and out. It was basically an open competition for the first 4 games of the season. Dabo announces after week 4 he's going to go with Trevor Lawrence. Kelly Bryant decides to transfer out because they have the new red shirt rule. You can play up to 4 games in a season and still take a red shirt. See, Kelly Bryant was a senior last year. Played the first 4 games, but because of the new red shirt rule, he was able to quit at that point and that year not count against his eligibility. So he sat out the remainder of the year after week 4, Kelly Bryant did, and now he's at Missouri. They lose Drew Locke from last year. You couldn't have 2 more diametrically opposed quarterbacks, could you, than Drew Locke and Kelly Bryant? Drew Locke, one of these big, tall, 6'4", 6'5" guys, can throw the ball the length of the field on his knees, can make all the NFL throws. Not very mobile, but he can move around a little bit. Kelly Bryant comes in at sort of the opposite situation. Very athletic quarterback, run-around type of guy at Clemson. Great at escaping pressure in the pocket, designed run type of situations. He's a big guy, too. Why did he choose Mizzou? My opinion, he chose Mizzou for one reason and one reason only, and that's for Derek Dooley to get him NFL ready. That's it. Derek Dooley, offensive coordinator at Mizzou. Somehow, Derek Dooley has gotten the reputation of being some sort of like QB genius. I'm not sure that's warranted, but nevertheless, that is sort of the reputation he's developed. And in my opinion, Kelly Bryant's only goal for 2019 is to show NFL scouts, GMs, personnel departments that he has an NFL caliber arm and he has the ability to play quarterback at the next level. He's chosen Missouri as the place to go to get him ready for that. We'll see. I still think Missouri is going to let him run around some. If you look at Missouri's offense from last year, it was a pro-style drop back, a lot of shotgun 4 and 5 wide or 3 and 4 wide type of thing with Drew Locke. I don't think Missouri is going to change their offense all that much. I obviously think they'll give Kelly Bryant more freedom to roam. I think there will be some more RPO type stuff, maybe some more design QB runs. But in general, I don't think Kelly Bryant went to Missouri hoping Missouri would change their offense to some sort of run-around quarterback offense. Like I said, he went there to throw the ball, and I think Missouri's going to let him do that. It's going to be interesting to watch the development of Kelly Bryant from last year to this year. I think he looked pretty good in the first 4 games that he played last year at Clemson. Comparing him to Trevor Lawrence in terms of just pure passing ability, it's almost not fair. It's not really fair to compare Trevor Lawrence to anybody in college in terms of Trevor Lawrence would start for half the teams in the NFL right now. I mean, you can't overestimate how good he is. So there's no shame. There's no knock on Kelly Bryant to say that, oh, he lost a starting job to Trevor Lawrence. Every quarterback in America in college football, including Tua and Jake Fromm, would have lost their starting job to Trevor Lawrence. He's that good. I'm still not convinced Kelly Bryant can become an elite level passer in 1 year at Missouri under Derek Dooley, but we'll see. That's obviously his hope and his goal. And if you look at Missouri's schedule, I mentioned this the other day, Missouri doesn't even have to be that good of a team. They could easily be 6-0 this year. It's going to be very interesting to keep an eye on Missouri. But anyway, those are the three quarterbacks I'm including on this list. Tua Tagovailoa, Jake Fromm, and Kelly Bryant. Running backs have been probably the hardest position for me to do in every single conference, just because I think there's so many variables that go into trying to judge a running back. Yeah, you can look at the amount of yards he got, but some running backs get 25 carries a game. Some teams have two running backs that split carries and they get 10 to 12 a game. Some teams have elite offensive lines. That helps a running back. Other teams, like, I'm not going to name any, but other teams have terrible offensive lines, so that obviously hurts a running back. Some teams throw the ball 70% of the time. Some teams run the ball 70% of the time. Some teams have two stud running backs. They're able to rotate in and out. Some teams like Kentucky and Auburn find one good running back and ride them into the ground. Same is true in the SEC. This was hard. This was a hard list to come up with here. Very hard. But I picked three. This is a combination of who I think is the best and who are my favorite to watch. I think the best running back in the SEC is Deandre Swift. I'm a Georgia fan. I admit it. I don't think that's a homer pick, though. If he's a junior, check some NFL draft boards, that kind of thing. He's picked by everybody to be either the first or second running back taken in next year's draft. Some people have ETN over at Clemson, who I think is also an elite NFL talent. I think Deandre Swift is the best running back in the SEC for sure. He went over 1,000 yards last year. He's a three-down back, not only in college, but that's going to translate for him to the NFL too. And the NFL really values a back who can play all three downs. You look in the NFL, you got a lot of running backs who come in on first and second down, then go to the bench. Different guy comes in on third down, go to the goal line. Different guy comes in for that. Deandre Swift's a three-down back. He can catch out of the backfield. He can even play in the slot if you need him to. If a team takes him that doesn't need a running back right away, he can return kicks for you, punts specifically. What did he do last year? 1,049 yards. Now, again, those aren't eye-popping numbers, but look back to Nick Chubb and Sony Michel numbers from their senior year. Very similar to this, 1,200, 1,300 yards. Georgia always seems to have two elite running backs. Deandre Swift got about 10 carries a game last year. That's one of the reasons Georgia continues to sign all these elite running backs. Running backs know they can come to Georgia, right? They can get 1,000 yards. They can show the NFL what they can do without wearing themselves out in college. Georgia running backs that go on to the NFL have way more tread left on their tires than your average running back that goes on to the NFL because they just don't get the number of carries. But like I said, the offense is designed in such a way where running backs are still able to showcase their talent for the NFL. So 1,049 yards, 6.4 a carry. When I talked about the Pac-12 and some of their running backs, not a single returning running back in the Pac-12 had 6 yards or more per carry. You had a lot of running backs in the Pac-12 with 4 and 5 yards per carry. And in college, that's not considered elite, right? Now, in the NFL, that would be great, but this isn't the NFL. This is college. You got to be in the 6, 7, 8 yards per carry range in college football, in my opinion, to be considered an elite level back. Deandre Swift fits that at 6.4, 10 touchdowns last year. I mentioned he's a three-down back. He's also Georgia's leading returning receiver for a variety of reasons. 3 of our receivers and a tight end from last year are gone to the NFL. Jeremiah Holloman was our leading returning receiver. We all know what happened to him, kicked off the team, domestic violence. That makes Deandre Swift Georgia's leading returning receiver with 32 catches last year, 300 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Elite running back, fun to watch, video game type of moves. This guy's real shifty. I've compared him to Barry Sanders in the past. People get mad, there'll never be another Barry Sanders. I completely agree, and I'm not saying Deandre Swift's going to end up being the next Barry Sanders. What I mean is when you watch Deandre Swift play, that's the sort of style that he reminds me of. Lateral quickness, the juke, the side-to-side type stuff. There's not a better player in college football at that. Speed is there. He's got all the video game moves. One of the funnest, probably my... I don't make Georgia fans mad. He's probably my second favorite player to watch in the SEC if I'm being objective and taking my Georgia fan homerism out of it. My favorite player to watch is on this list, and we'll get to him here. We'll get to him here in just a second, I hope. Yeah, we will also in 2. But I've got Deandre Swift running back. All right, Alabama and Georgia, very similar when it comes to the running back situation. They always have 2 or 3 running backs that you know are going to be in the NFL one day. When you play Alabama, you have no idea which running back's going to start. You have no idea which running back's going to get the most amount of carries. You have no idea which running back is coming in on the next drive, the next series, the next possession, the next play for that matter. They're loaded at the running back position. Lost a couple last year. Najee Harris, though, really, really good running back. Only 783 yards last year, but don't let that fool you. They rotated 3 running backs in and out of the entire season. 6.7 yards per carry. That tells you more about Najee Harris than the 700 yards he had does. 4 touchdowns. That number will probably quadruple this year. I don't think anybody would be surprised to see Najee Harris get 16 touchdowns this year as opposed to the 4 he had last year. Fun guy to watch. Some rumors that Alabama is going to sort of revert a little offensively to more of a possession and, ground control type of offense. I'm going to have to see that to believe it. And I don't really understand why they would do that. Yeah, Najee Harris is great. And it's not like Alabama is an Oklahoma situation where, you throw the ball, quick scoring drives, and then your defense is getting torched. Alabama's defense did take a step back last year compared to what Bama fans are used to. They still had an amazing defense, okay? So I'm going to have to see that before I believe it. Because, you got Tua, you got probably the best wide receiver group in all of college football. Clemson's great, Oklahoma's great, Ohio State's great. I think those are the 4 best receiving groups in college football, but Alabama could very well have the best. So I'm going to have to see that to believe it. But I think Najee Harris still has a big year. I have him on this list. Keyshawn Vaughn, running back Vanderbilt. I know a lot of you don't probably care about Vanderbilt or keep up with them. If your team is off one weekend or, they're playing at night and you're looking for a game to watch during the day or whatever, and you happen to see that Vanderbilt's on, I don't care who they're playing, watch some of a Vanderbilt game just to watch Keyshawn Vaughn play. Not only is this guy exciting and fun to watch, he's legit one of the best 4 or 5 running backs in the SEC, without question. Without question. 1,244 yards on the ground last year, 7.9 per carry. Vanderbilt, Deandre Swift, 6.4 per carry behind the best offensive line in America. Najee Harris behind Alabama's offensive line, 6.7 yards per carry. Keyshawn Vaughn behind Vanderbilt's offensive line, 7.9 yards per carry, 12 touchdowns. Keyshawn Vaughn would have single-handedly beat Florida last year had he not got injured in that game. Vanderbilt was up on Florida at halftime, and it was 100% because of Keyshawn Vaughn. He was averaging 8 yards per carry in the first half of that game. He had a 75-yard touchdown reception in the first half. Pulled up lame towards late in the second half of that game. Wasn't able to do much in the second half. And we all know what happened. Florida came back and won. I honestly believe had Keyshawn Vaughn stayed in that game healthy the entire time, Vandy would have ended up winning that game. He looked unstoppable. Florida had no answer for him in that game. He's an absolute. You have to watch this guy play. I get it. It's Vanderbilt. Watch him play. You will not be disappointed. Keyshawn Vaughn. How is it possible for Vanderbilt to have 2 players on a list of best offensive or most interesting offensive players in the SEC? How much sense would it make to have 2? Kalijah Lipscomb, wide receiver, 87 catches, 916 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Now, he had a great quarterback last year. Don't know about the quarterback situation for this year. New quarterback breaking in there. This guy, I think this guy's another one. I think this is an NFL player here. I know it's Vandy. Again, if a player is able to stand out and shine on Vanderbilt, it leads me to believe that's not smoke and mirrors, okay? There are a lot of players you can point to in college football that have good numbers or put up good stats or whatever, and you can say, well, it's because everyone around him is so good. That's not the case at Vandy. I'm not knocking Vandy. Vandy is less talented overall than almost every single team they play every year. And this guy has almost 1,000 yards receiving. I would give my left leg for a receiver to have 916 yards at Georgia. I don't even know what that's like. A.J. Green was a long time ago for me. And before that, good luck finding one that had this many yards. Anyway, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but again, when you're talking about wide receivers, and I'm trying to include a few players from every position, Kalijah Lipscomb, Albert Okwagami Banami. Albert Okagamagaman. Albert Okuwagaman. Albert Aquaman. Albert Okewikimaka. Albert Aquakam Obama. Again, I don't, I didn't name this guy. I definitely didn't choose this spelling, so I apologize. Okay, this Missouri tight end, Albert Akakavakabaka, again, with the spelling. I didn't name the guy. I didn't choose the spelling. I apologize for getting it wrong. You guys know I love these big, tall, athletic, wide tight ends. He's 6'5", right? 43 catches last year for 466 yards. Great possession type receiver. 6 touchdowns. He actually had 11 touchdowns the year before, right? Missouri had some great receivers last year, so Drew Locke kind of spread the ball around. Year before, 6 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns last year, but 11 the year before. Listen, Missouri's got some talent at the wide receiver position. They lost some of their talent from last year there, but they've got some guys coming back. That and this guy at tight end here, this Akagabaga Obama guy, Kelly Bryant could have a good year. This guy's the real deal, though. Like I mentioned, 43 receptions, 466 yards, 6 touchdowns. Huge. He's like a building running down the field. He makes my list as a tight end. All right, next up on the wide receivers, the best player in the SEC, regardless of position, in my opinion. Maybe the best player in all of college football, regardless of position. Wide receiver, Alabama, Jerry Judy. Look, if you guys have been watching LouTube for a while, you know I'm a Georgia fan. I'm a college football player fan. When I find a college football player that I like to watch or that I think does something exceptionally well, Saquon Barkley, Bryce Love, Jonathan Taylor have been a few over the last few years. Kyler Murray was fun to watch. I was never a Baker Mayfield fan, but Kyler Murray was fun to watch. There's been put Jerry Judy at the top of this list. Watching Jerry Judy play football it looks like a grown man playing with a bunch of 8-year-old children when Jerry Judy played. How Georgia has managed to nearly shut him down both times we've played Bama the last couple of years. I know we had DeAndre Baker, and DeAndre Baker is great. It blows, when I look at Jerry Judy's stats, or lack thereof, against Georgia the last 2 years, it blows my mind because you watch Jerry Judy play football, it's unbelievable. I've never in my life seen somebody catch a slant route like Jerry Judy does. I don't care how good of a wide receiver you are, how fast you are, how long your arms are, how good your hands are, how high you can jump, how good of a route you run, how good you are at getting off a bump coverage, or whatever. Almost every single receiver in the history of football has slowed down, even if it's just a little bit, as they go to catch the ball. Jerry Judy gets faster in the half second before he catches it to the half second after he catches it. He accelerates through the. It's hard to describe. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. This guy is unbelievable. I mean, I could probably do a whole video just on Jerry Judy. This guy is the real deal. He's the best receiver in college football that I've seen in a long, long time. We've had some great receivers. The Big 12 seems to put out great receivers. Pac-12's put some great ones out. The SEC with A.J. Green and Julio Jones and those guys, Calvin Ridley. Jerry Judy is every bit as good as any of those guys was, without question. Watch him play if you haven't. Wide receiver Jerry Judy. I know y'all were shaking your head when I added that second Vanderbilt player to a top 10 list of players in the SEC, right? I was crazy. But the next tight end, Jared Pinckney, tight end Vanderbilt. This guy, listen, man, what do you want me to do? The guy had 50 catches as a tight end, 774 yards, 7 touchdowns, 15 yards per carry. So it's not like this guy's running 4-yard curl routes all day long. 15 yards per carry. Again, just like with the other guy, we'll see if these numbers can stay where they were at with a new quarterback coming in. What was the guy's name? Kyle Shermer. Well, I forget his name. Whatever his name was. He's gone. We'll see how Vandy does now with a new quarterback. That was one of the best quarterbacks Vandy's had in a while, honestly. But anyway, this guy's probably the best tight end in the SEC, in my opinion, Jared Pinckney. Fun to watch. Listen, when you're a college football fan like I am, and you have no reason to hate Vanderbilt, and you watch Vanderbilt, don't you like to root for Vanderbilt? I mean, be honest with yourself. I do. I love a good underdog story. Almost beating Notre Dame last year, the Florida game. I don't know. I like to see Vandy do well. Jared Pinckney, if Vandy can do well this year, Jared Pinckney is going to be a huge reason why. He's the next tight end on this list. All right, that was 10 players. But obviously, I'm not going to conclude this list without naming my absolute favorite player in the SEC. Top 5 of all time Uncle Lou favorite players ever in the SEC. He happens to be a Georgia Bulldog. My man, Rodrigo Hot Rod Blankenship. This guy, hold on, did I write any of this down? 154 out of 154 on extra points. You hear that, Bama fan? A guy that can make an extra point every single time. You don't even have to sweat it out. Field goals, he's made 82% of his field goals. 82, Gump. 82%. This guy's amazing. Cult following. 20 years from now, people will be talking about Rodrigo Blankenship. It's a combination of things. It's the fact that he happens to be really, really good, his look, his personality. This guy, you guys know who I'm talking about. He wears the wraparound goggles. This guy does post-game press conferences with his helmet on. Absolute beast. Set the Rose Bowl record. Longest field goal in the Rose Bowl. The game been played 100 years. No one has kicked a longer field goal in the Rose Bowl than Rodrigo Blankenship. I became a fan of him back in 2016, his first year, when he was like 4 for 4 on field goals against Kentucky. 2016 was not a good year for Georgia. I'm not going to get into that, but anyway, we ended up winning that game by 3 or 4 points or something like that. He was 4 for 4 for field goals, including the game winner at the very end. The guy has ice water in his veins. He did miss one in the SEC championship game, which truly broke my heart. I don't think that really swung the game one way or the other. It would have put Georgia up another 3 points there early in the third quarter in that game. But the guy, how can you not like Rodrigo Blankenship? He was a walk-on, right? I went nuts in 2016 demanding that Georgia give this guy a scholarship. They finally did the right thing and did exactly that. But how can you, and I've heard from fans from every school in America practically over the last couple of years, everyone likes Rodrigo Blankenship. By far my favorite player in the SEC in 2019. All right, that's it. I appreciate you guys watching. Again, I'm not saying these are necessarily the 10 best players in the SEC, so try to keep your hatred and anger to a minimum. But and feel free in the comment section down below, name, list, give me 2, 3, 4, however many you want of your favorite players in the SEC. They don't have to be the best players. Don't just name 5 players on your team. If that's what you do, I disregard that. I don't put any stock into a list of players that someone names from their own team. Spread it out. Tell me who you like watching the most in the SEC. I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you tomorrow with another SEC video. Have a good morning.